Alrighty, we are going to talk about variables. And if it sounds scary, don't worry. In a very short time, you won't be able to remember not knowing how they worked. But conceptually, what is it? A variable is just a place that you can put data, put something. Let me give you an example quick. Let's say you have in your house a cookie jar, right? You put cookies in it. Okay? You bake a batch, they go in. Your kids or your friends, whoever comes along and takes them out. Okay? Let's say you have a label on it that is your, I'm going to put here, cookie count. Okay, this gets updated anytime cookies go in. So you bake a batch and you put 12, right? Because you make 12 cookies, that's what's in there. One of your kids comes along and eats 2 and it goes down to 10. And then you make another batch, but this time you only make 10 because 2 of them go bad. There are 20 in here. This thing does not, it's not actually the number of cookies in there, but someone could say, right, someone over here shouts from the other room and says, hey, how many cookies are there, right, in the jar? They are saying, right, they are using a variable name, how many cookies are in the jar, right? There were 12, then there were 10, then there were 20. It changes, and so we can reference that piece of data with this label. That's what essentially we are going to do with our variables. So you can code along with me if you want. Let me get rid of our friend here. But in Python, any word that's not already reserved can be a variable. So if I put the word name followed by an equal sign and then we use our quotes, this is valid Python. I just stored this in here. Or I could do cookie count equals 12. Okay? This is how you do basic variable assignment. We're going to code it out here in just a second. You can go ahead and do this part. The one thing I want to make note of before we move on is you cannot do this. Print equals, I don't know, X. Print is a reserved word. You've already seen this, right? Print belongs to Python. If you try this, Python will yell at you and say, hey, that is a reserved word, so this is not okay. But anything that's not a reserved word, with I think very few exceptions, is okay as a variable name. Okay? Let's hop over to our code. I am back over in Visual Studio Code, and inside of the basics here, I'm going to make a new file with this icon, and I'm going to call it Python basics.py. We're going to do it's going to be kind of a playground. We're just going to do a lot of random little things here. And just like we had in our video, you may already have done this. Just do name equals Rob, okay? This on the left is the variable name, and we are assigning it, this is called variable assignment, to what's on the right. It always works that way. The variable name is on the left, and then what you're assigning it to is on the right. And then right below it, we can do cookie count equals 12, exactly the same thing. Our variable name, an equal sign, and then this is what we are setting it to. Now, there's a couple things I want to talk about here real quick before we go much farther. Comments, okay? Comments, and I'm going to put an equal sign here. This is not an assignment, although Python thinks it is because I haven't made it a comment yet. Comments are anything that is not for Python. Comments are for the developer / human. And the way that you make a comment in Python is at the very beginning of the line, you make a pound or a hash or a number sign, whatever you want to call it. I will call it a hash. The other way that you can do it in Visual Studio Code, if you hold down Command / on a PC, it would be Control /. You can go back and forth, just toggling it by doing Command / here. Okay? Comments are incredibly important because they tell us what our code is doing. And you will see me do this a lot, and you should do this a lot. Now, don't over-comment, don't make it obnoxious, but there's nothing worse than writing some code and coming back to it a week later, a month later, and you have no idea what it is. And if you had just written a note to yourself, because that's really all a comment is, you would all of a sudden, right, you would get it. You would be able to understand what you were trying to do. Okay, now I will typically put the comments, if they're long, right above the line. If they're short, I will put it next to the line. So as a for instance here, variable assignment is var name on left, an equal sign, value on right. Okay, so we've got a long one here, and then I can put next to it In this case, you can't do the command slash because it will do it at the beginning of the line. But I can put a hash there and say assigning name to Rob. And then right below, we'll do the same thing, assigning cookie count to 12. Okay? Now, just like in our cookie count, cookie jar example, cookies get taken out, so we can overwrite this. So grab cookie count and immediately change it to 10, right? Can do it again. We make a new batch and we can add 10 and it becomes 20. All right, go ahead and print these out, practice and play with them. You'll notice something else that I've done that maybe looks a little bit funny here. For the variable cookie count, I have this underscore here, and I'm going to make another comment here. I'm going to say snake case is used in Python when you have a variable name, and I'm going to drop down to the next line, that has more than one word. The words are separated by an underscore. Okay? One more thing about comments is you can do multiple lines at once. So if I highlight these two lines here, do command slash, it uncomments them, recomments, you get the idea. Okay? Looks like let's combine the lines here so it's a little bit easier to read. There we go. Okay? So what I've done here is I've got two words, cookie and count, and I separate them with an underscore. I will do this all the time because I want my variables to be really descriptive. Just kind of like we talked about up here with comments, you don't want to come back and see that your code, it doesn't make any sense to you if you'd only left yourself a note. We don't want your variable names to be confusing either. I'm gonna mention here another one. So camel case is an alternative, and I'll put that in parentheses here. Alternative to snake means starting each new word with a capital letter except the first. Okay, so an example of camel case would be something like this. Example, cookie count. This is used in JavaScript. That is what, if you end up going into a Node or JS, a JavaScript class with me, we will use camel case, but at least to the best of my knowledge, for Python, it is snake case. This is what you will see. And just as a final thought, these cases, snake case and camel case, they are entirely for the developer. Just like comments, Python doesn't care if you make your variables look like this. That will be really strange and it will be difficult to read, but you can do that. Python does not care at all, so long as it's a valid variable name. Again, we gotta avoid keywords, and then generally we do not put capital letters at the beginning. This is for you to make it easy for you to read and memorable variable names. Okay, so we're going to keep moving on here. One of the nice things about variable assignments is we don't have to do 12, 10, and 20. You can do 12, and then what did we say here, right? We said 2 cookies were taken out. We could do cookie count minus 2. So you're going to overwrite the variable cookie count with whatever it currently is minus 2. So it is 12 when we get to this line, so it's gonna essentially do this, 12 minus 2, right? Now this is gonna be 10. And if we bake 10 new ones, and I'll put that in here, bake 10 new cookies, instead of this, we could grab cookie count and do plus 10. So what is cookie count right now? Well, it's 10. So we're going to add 10 more. This is going to now get us on line 14 to 20. A couple different ways to do the part up at the top here. We have name equals Rob. I can do name equals double quotes Rob like I had up above. I can do name equals single quotes Rob. The one thing I cannot do is name equals backticks Rob. All right? Python will not like this. It was valid in Python 2. They removed it in Python 3 because they're just not used enough. Let's go ahead and print some of these off and try this out in the terminal. A couple quick shortcuts up here. This one right here, that will open and close your sidebar. This one will open and close the terminal window, and then if you want it to be full screen, you've got that arrow there. I will usually keep it full screen so we can see as much as possible. So that's how you can get it open. Let's real quick drop some print statements in here. So I'm going to print off cookie count here. We'll do it right below, and then we'll do it right there. And then let's print off name. So it'll be here. We'll do it right below. And then let's bring this one back in, and let's try and print name off. Okay, save it. Let's come over here. Make sure you're inside your the basics folder, and then I'm going to run Python 3 against Python basics. Sure enough, we even told ourselves Python will not like this. It says invalid syntax. I will do this to you a lot, where I will set you up where we will do something that I know will not work, and I will tell you. And I think it's a really helpful way, because you are going to get bugs in your code. And the best thing you can do is not be afraid of them, because you can fix them. It's just a process working through it. So let's look at our error. This is the first one, at least the first one that I've given you. On line 23, right, of this particular file, it's pointing at this. That arrow there is telling us where the error is at, and it says invalid syntax. So you can't do that. We already talked about that. It was removed in Python 3, so I'm going to comment that out. Let's come back over, and let's run our code again. And we get 12, 10, 20, Rob. Okay? Here's another thing that I think is really useful when printing stuff out to the terminal. If you are looking for or expecting certain output from the console or into the terminal, it can be really helpful to put like a bunch of equal signs like this so that you know what to look for. If you've got a bunch of these, you might put in here expecting 12, so that when you actually run your code, whatever the next line is, you can confirm whether or not your code worked. So I'll take that one, I'll put it right above that, we'll do expecting 10, and then we'll put right above this one, expecting 20. And then down here, you can do the same thing, print name Rob, and then put a note in there. But if we come back over, get rid of that, and run it again, it is much more helpful. You can find this comment, which is hard-coded. And when I say hard-coded, I mean you literally typed this in. We didn't literally type 12 or 10 or 20, and those are operations that are happening. So this is a really nice way to sort of keep control over what's printing out.